What's up, guys? Today on Weird Future, this is Chris, and joining me today would be,
The Cube.
and we're here to talk to you guys about the newest Samurai Jack episode. Now, uh, for those of you who haven't watched the previous episode, you could check it out on our channel.
Yeah, guys, so this new episode pretty much follows up on the last one if you guys haven't been watching it. So we kind of get to the point where we see Jack and Ashi, for those of you who don't know what her name is, the daughter of Aku. The last two that basically survive this fight after Jack wrecks them and then they fall into the forest below. It starts off right there with Jack waking up after the fight. He finds Ashi lying on the ground, covered in blood. I thought she was dead, honestly. I don't know about you, Chris, but I thought she was just lying there cold, and he was just like, "Oh, yep, that happened."
You know what? I honestly did not think that she was dead. I thought that she was definitely using one of her sister's blood patterns to deceive Jack into thinking that she was dead, and I definitely was right on that one.
I'm actually really surprised that the artist didn't take it a step further, and we see their bodies hanging in the trees or something crazy like that. Because he did throw the other two off the edge as well. So how intense that would be.
Yeah, he sure did. I'm surprised he didn't do that as well. The fact that he didn't throw that in there was a little bit interesting. I mean, I would have definitely liked to see the bodies of the fallen sisters, but then yet again, it was snowing.
Yeah, they could have been covered up.
Yeah, they could have been covered up over time. So that's probably one thing that they have going for them.
Yeah, so as the episode continues, a bunch of crows gather around Jack as he's staring at Ashi, and then they all start, as Jack's mind starts to wander, I guess as he really starts to think about what he's done, the insanity comes in again, and all the crows start yelling at him, and they say, "Murder, murder, murder, murder," like they all start yelling these things at him, and he starts yelling back at them, and then Ashi wakes up and they fight. Jack manages to stop her.
Exactly, he shows off his skills that he's acquired over time. Like, this one girl is pretty much nothing to him now that she doesn't have the rest of her sisters. Like, he is pretty much an unstoppable force, or she is pretty much a rock going up against a immovable object, or a pebble, so to speak.
Yeah, so as the episode continues, basically if you guys remember at the end of the last episode, she starts yelling insults at Jack, and that kind of continues. Jack decides that she is a soul that has kind of lost her way because of Aku, so he's trying to show her the light. But the only reason he decides this is because as they're having this kind of moment in the forest, the entire forest collapses around them, and they are swallowed by a gigantic beast. And for a second, I thought this was Jack losing his mind again. I thought he was just having another moment, and the whole forest getting swallowed. That's so... we've seen a lot of large monsters in Samurai Jack, but that's next level, that it's like a behemoth.
Yeah.
Lovecraft almost levels of size.
You know what? I when I was watching this episode, I was like, all right, this is it. Aku's coming out right now. He's just gonna come out. But it took me for a loop when I saw the worm. I was like, oh crap! This is a huge worm, and it kind of reminded me. I didn't think Lovecraft. I thought Gears of War 2. How they have that big old worm, how the locusts have the big old worm come out of I think it was Jacinto. I don't know. I'd have to go back to it on that. I'd have to look that up. But the giant worm from Gears of War 2 that Ben Carmine falls into, it was just this whole episode pretty much reminded me of that particular scene from Gears of War 2.
Fighting your way out of a giant worm, that pretty much is what ends up happening, because as they fall into the gaping maw of this beast, Jack and Ashi fight again, because Ashi is relentless on her pursuit to kill him, and he stops her and wraps her up in the Kusarigama again, and basically decides to take her with him through the body of the monster to get out.
Yeah, and he pretty much makes her like a human backpack, just straps her to his back.
I like that the chain on this Kusarigama is questionably long. It's long enough for however long Jack needs it to be. It's good enough for a backpack. It's good enough to whip her around and carry her. You know what I mean? He uses it for a multitude of functions.
It's pretty much like a rope. It's a pretty lengthy rope right now.
What I really like is that as he's traveling through the body, you start recognizing major organs as he's going through it. You see kind of like a bloodline, or not bloodline, like veins,
Yeah,
like blood cells going through them, and bits of brain with like the synaptic receptors and things like that.
indeed. That was like that whole the fact that they detailed the worm as such was pretty great.
Yeah, and it was like it was a cool travel just to see that all happening. And then basically what ends up happening is they reach sort of like a halfway point, and Jack decides to put her down, having another moment to himself.
Indeed.
And when he's having this moment to himself, yet again, when his mind wanders and he takes a moment to rest, the insanity kind of comes back to him, and he sees like this little puffball hanging in the air. And the art right here is beautiful. He's like shaded in this purple with like multiple shades, and like the setting of like, inside the worm, but it has like almost this natural look, like he's outside with this like luminescent glow.
Yeah, it was like a little dandelion that was just kind of like floating around in the worm's like inside the worm, and the fact that it spoke to him is just signifying that Jack's still like pretty crazy, you know, like. And I feel like the story writers are trying to like throw this at us, like, you know, this guy he's not like this insanity of his is not going to stop anytime soon. Like this is I guess one of the only ways to show, or I mean one of the many ways that they've shown like that Jack is pretty messed up right now in the brain.
Yeah, and then what I really like is that, okay, so every episode pretty much we've seen Crazy Jack. Inner Jack, the blue skinned, kind of like always kind of out of the corner of his eye, but he doesn't really want to accept it character. And now it's back again. And the thing is, in the second episode, he was figured, he was disjointed, he had sharp teeth, and he looked kind of maniacal. Even in the first bit, he was like kind of like distorted in a weird way. But then this episode, he almost looks exactly like Jack, just like the original Jack. He's starting to look more human. He's starting to look almost like a reflection of Jack, which is, I don't know if they're trying to tell us something with that, but I find that really interesting.
Yeah, you know, now that you bring it up, like I didn't notice it at first, but the fact that you brought it up, that is, I feel like they're gonna go somewhere with that. Like a little bit more demonic to a little bit more looking like regular Jack is signifying that maybe Jack is slowly coming back to his original self. Like instead of being very crazy all the time, he's just slowly going back to his calm state in that sense. And I feel that the fact that we only got to see ordinary Jack, I feel like he only appeared up in the show one time. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
I think he appeared in the first episode when he's hiding. No, he appeared when he was hiding in the battle drone sort of thing. After he beat it and the sisters first started attacking him, he was like freaked out, and then the blue version of him came. And then when he's hiding in the cave with the wolf, or before the wolf comes, then he has another version of him, which is two different versions, but they're still very distorted in their figure.
Yeah.
So as the episode basically continues, as he's talking to himself, Ashi is sitting there watching him, and then all of a sudden she is kind of creeped up on by like this crab person that I know Chris has enjoyed. He kind of swiggity swooty sneaks down from a tree and grabs her up and pulls her and sneaks away with her. And then what really gets me is that Jack is sitting there having this moment, and his sanity, his vision, or like, you know, his the mental version of him,
yeah,
that she's gone, and warns him.
Exactly, like the fact that he's still aware, or the fact that his consciousness is still able to be aware of what's going on around him,
even though he's having this moment.
Yeah, even though he's having these moments, was pretty great. I particularly like this little crab. It was pretty it's pretty hilarious. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
so
he walks up to Ashi and is like, "Hey, how's it going? You're coming with me." And then he just takes her.
Yeah,
that was
so
great.
basically, right after that, Jack decides to save her again, and the mental version of him, the imaginary Jack, comes in and is like, "Are you really gonna save her again?" And he's like, and he says, "Yeah, he's going to." And he basically explains that she's lost her way, and he has no other choice. So he goes and saves her again. Comes back down with her. She basically continues to yell at him and say how worthless he is.
Yeah.
And the little puffball floats up and is like, "What'd you expect? What'd you expect, dude?"
And you can't say anything. And he
Nothing,
keeps going.
because he's got it. Like, he just got to take it. So so basically we get another whole little bit of him traveling through the body. You know, him seeing different organs and stuff. and then he sees like a giant caterpillar, I guess you could say.
I would say it's more of a centipede.
No, before that actually, there's the needle ring.
Yeah.
The
The
needle
needle
ring.
ring. The
So
needle ring.
so as he's making his way through the body, he comes to like this large open area inside of one of the organs, and it starts raining, but it's actually tiny little needles, and
They get covered in it.
yeah, they get covered in it, and there's this whole little moment of Jack trying to have like a conversation with Ashi as he's pulling the needles out of her face and out of his face. It just keeps going back and forth for like a whole minute.
Yeah, and he tries saying something to her, and she just like remains dead silent. That was
Talks about acupuncture.
Yeah, he talks it like just to pass the time. He talks about acupuncture, and he's like, "Yeah, people pay for this. It's called acupuncture." And she says not a word, just because you just see in her face how she's just scowling at him while he's just doing this, while he's doing his thing. Like she is not willing to accept Jack as a good person right now.
So basically after that they run into this giant caterpillar sort of thing, and Jack manages to hide from it with Ashi. Leaves behind some of its shell. So Jack makes a suit of armor for himself, and it has like a purple fur like collar, or like a kind of like a half cape almost.
It's like back feathers, I think he calls it. I think he calls it back feathers.
Yeah, and it's very fanciful, and he's like, I like it, and she makes fun of him for it, and he's like, from you, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, and he's just trying to like show her, he's trying to show Ashi that he's not a bad guy. He's just trying to have her see like the good side of him instead of like the Jack that's been fighting all the time.
Not to mention he's trying to make light of a bad moment. I mean, they're both stuck in this monster, and he's like, you know what? If this is all I'm gonna get out of this monster, I'll take it. I'll take this suit of armor, sure.
Yeah, and I'll take your compliment as well.
Yeah. So he basically gets this suit, and they make their way a little farther, and then they get to, I don't even know what it is. It's just like a main, or like another large dark organ, like right near the shell or its carapace, I guess. And its back has like a hole that opens up, almost like a blowhole. In this room, whenever it's dark, there's these large creatures. They're not bugs, and they're not animals. They're just vibrant creatures that we can't really describe. They just fly around this room, and
one of them does look like a jellyfish. That's
one that has the appearance of a
ones.
jellyfish.
Yeah.
Even though the room is not filled with water, they're just kind of doing their thing in the air.
Yeah.
They almost look like cell or organisms. They have like very distinct weird features. So what ends up happening is that there's a lake of acid at the bottom, of course. Couldn't be easy for Jack. So he decides to ride these large creatures to the blowhole, or whatever it is.
He's going to ride them to the sun.
Yeah, and he's going to ride them straight out of there, but what ends up happening is there's a monster that is basically this skeletal structure of a giant fish, but with like the face of a shark or something like that, and it has 3 eyes on either side of its face.
I feel it looks like a little bit more like a barracuda.
Yeah, barracuda. Yeah, it's hungry.
It's very hungry, and it's noticing that these creatures are going into the light, and it's seeming awfully suspicious. So as I think the first organism that they take to the light is when the monster just decides to come in and attack, and then you see them fall off the organism and onto another organism, and they make it a point, and I really like this. Like they make it a point to show the pit of acid pretty much almost every time they fall, or
like
about to fall.
Or like there are some shots where it's totally dark beneath them as he's falling. And I really like the idea that Jack is just falling and he doesn't know where the acid is. He has to he has to guess. He's like, oh god, and like I'm falling and it could be coming anytime, so I got to get on another one of these.
Yeah, that was a pretty good. That was well done by the animators to show that. And another thing, like when we see him go onto another organism, happens to be a very fast one. It kind of just like darts away because it's also afraid of this barracuda-like thing. And then after a while, it just flicks him off onto a jellyfish-looking creature.
Yeah, and basically he uses the jellyfish because it's rising towards the sun, or like towards the blowhole, and then the monster notices that he's inside of it, starts chasing towards them, and whenever the barracuda thing gets close to these jellyfish, they start slowing down and get really scared, I guess. So Jack is about to reach the surface, and then one of them, the one he is riding, gets scared, and they all start popping because of the sunlight. So he uses propulsion of the pop and of the barracuda's mouth, like closing around it, to launch him through the air and out of the blowhole with Ashi on his back. And they manage to make it out of this giant monster and onto out into the ocean.
Yeah, pretty much
small island.
Yeah, and you see Ashi kind of like slip away, I guess, because she's never been into the water before or swam in the water.
I think she was like unconscious or something.
Or something like that, yeah. And
but the chain breaks around her, so she's free again when they reach the island, and Jack goes to basically relax, have another moment. We don't see anything coming from him, no insanity bit, but Ashi wakes up and is basically threatening to kill him. She gets like up and is about to stab him in the back with the
blade, and we see the ladybug fly in from like in the same instance, like she has a flashback as the ladybug is flying of her younger years, a younger Ashi, when she first sees a ladybug, and how it goes into her hand, and how her parents are or not her parents, her mom, it tells her, look, like, don't worry about this ladybug. It's nothing but a blockade from your true mission in killing the samurai. And you see Ashi's mom just kill the ladybug with her hands. And as she's watching, like, then once she finishes that scene, as she's watching the ladybug fly into Jack's hand, you see that Jack holds out his hand in the same exact manner that Ashi's mother did, and she looks very concerned about this ladybug. Like, she actually cares about this ladybug because it's something from her past that she had, and you see that she's afraid that Jack might kill it just like her mother did, but instead Jack just lets it wander in his hand for a little bit and then lets it go once again. And that's how the episode ends, with Ashi like in disbelief that Jack actually let this creature live.
Yeah, so after he lets it live, she kind of realizes that maybe not in entirety, but she kind of realizes that Jack isn't totally destroying life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, her mother blatantly has no respect for life. So now that she sees that Jack respects life in some semblance, she's like, maybe, just maybe I'm wrong. Just maybe.
Yeah, maybe the samurai guy isn't a bad guy after all.
But the thing is, I don't want a whole character turn next. I don't want her to automatically be, like, you know, totally on Jack's side. I like, the whole thing is I want it to be gradual. She's lived like 20 odd years of her life getting ready for this moment, and now it's just gone. Her whole life is just like her whole mission. So, like, she should be almost as crazy as Jack is, in all honesty.
Yeah, in all honesty, she should probably, like, that ladybug thing should just be like her being unsure of herself and her beliefs of the of what she's believed in her whole life. And I want to see in this next couple of episodes how she just transitions through that, you know, what her whole point of view in life has been just altered by this one moment. And I don't want her to change right away. I want her to be able to just slowly transition from not liking Jack to actually believing that Jack is a really good guy, you know?
Yeah, totally. So, this episode was really good. I just want to go over, like, a final points before we wrap it up, because that's pretty much the end of the episode, guys. So, I really enjoyed the setting of this. We're in this monster with Jack for the entirety of the episode. It never really feels like... I mean, there are a lot of large bits where you see, like, you know, organs and things like that going on, but then there are these moments inside where you almost feel like he's outside. He's in an area, like the area where he's having that mental moment. It almost looks like a forest, or the area with the monsters in the dark. You could almost believe it's just night and he's existing somewhere. But it's crazy. It's really well drawn, and I really appreciate the art that went into this. Chris, is there anything you'd like to mention, anything you really enjoyed before we wrap it up?
I really enjoyed, going back to the settings. Like, I didn't feel like they were in the monster at all. I felt like they were actually, like, outside, going on an adventure with the intricate, like an intricate rock as for the like the nervous system, or like a mountain that they needed to climb when the crab took away Ashi, and he just climbed up the rock and or the mountain and just brought her back down. After you beat the crud out of the crab. It didn't feel like they were trapped inside a monster. They felt like they were making the best, or Jack was making the best of what his situation was. You know, instead or it was just a really well drawn, and I just didn't feel like they were trapped. Like you knew that they were trapped inside the worm, but you didn't really feel like they were trapped inside the worm.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much everything, though. I really enjoyed this episode. I think they've been staying strong on keeping this reboot, faithful to what it was and kind of giving it something new to look forward to, and I've really enjoyed it. So this has been The Cube.
And this has been Chris.
Talk to you guys later.
Adios.